Everyone is talking about which game engine is the best, but there's still one question that nobody has asked or answered. Are game engines really useful, or are they entirely useless? Now, before everybody gets mad at me, let me explain what I mean by this. I know that for most projects, it's a good idea to have a game engine for them, but there are some projects that the game engine not only doesn't speed stuff up, but actually can slow it down. And in this video, I'm going to try and answer this question. For a quick example, I recently made a turn-based combat game for GeoJam 2022. I had never made a turn-based combat game before, and I'll admit my implementation was a bit buggy and was very hard to work with. I don't believe that Godot held me back, but I do think I probably could have made a better game if I had just used C++ and SFML. So that leads to point number one. It's all about the game, and the game engine is just a tool. So how do you find out what you should use for your game? Well, you first need to know the options. There are four main ways to make a game. We'll call them levels. The level number one is to use a basic system library or platform library like Windows.h and just C++ or whatever language you're using, standard libraries, combined with that to make your entire game. Here's a tip, never use these, you'll end up in an insane asylum. But what you can do is the next level, which is graphics libraries like OpenGL and multimedia libraries like SFML. These will not only handle rendering in a more simple way, but also control things like audio and input, and leave you to code the fundamentals of your game, like collision detection. The third level is made up of game frameworks and libraries. These combine the features of level 2, like multimedia libraries, with features specific to games to make things like game engines without visual editors. So that means that they would often have things like collision detection and custom physics in addition to rendering audio and input. The final level, of course, is made up of the game engines we know and love and use all the time. After that, you need to define the requirements of your game. Make a list of features you want in your game, as well as any features you want pre-done by your engine or framework. For example, you may not want to write your own collision detection, limiting you to the top 2 levels. Now that you have your features and what you want pre-made, you can define which levels are possibilities. For this example, we'll say that some developer is making a platformer, and they want your input code pre-done. This limits them to the top 2 levels. The third step is to make prototypes in every engine or framework you want to consider. Make those fundamental features you listed in these, and choose which ones were the fastest, easiest, and most fun to implement. Combine that with how easy it is to add new features, and you'll be down to a few options. For our example, the developer wanted a desktop game, and he tried Unity, Godot, C++ using SFML as a graphics library, and Python using Pygame. He found the easiest to use to be Unity and C++, and now he must decide between the two. So now you're down to the final step. You just have to pick one. But how? Come up with your own criteria. If you want full control over your render pipeline, then you'll probably want to go with the first 2 levels, system libraries and multimedia libraries. In this example, the developer wanted to be able to fully control his systems for rendering and input, and he wanted a custom physics system. For these features, he chose C++ and SFML. He made his little game and plans to release it to over 500 fans next month. But I haven't actually answered the question at the beginning of the video yet. Are game engines useful? The truth is, it depends entirely on the game and the developer. For most people, game engines really help, but for some, they just slow down the workflow. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, and make sure to join the Discord server, link in the description.